In this video we're going to see how we use so-called CRUD functionality offered by the Application Graph API to add, delete, read, modify Application Craft app instance data. So CRUD functions, we look at the cheat sheet. Here we've got these ones here: instance create, update, delete. Again, it's worth reading here in the this section of the scripting API reference. So let's go back and actually run our test app, and we're going to create a new company. We'll call it Mars, and click Save. Now when I click Save, what it's doing is creating a new instance. If I click on Mars again and I want to modify it, click on Save. That's actually updating the instance. And similarly, I could click on Delete to delete the instance. So let's go back and see how that's done. Now, in this particular app, there are two different types of data storage being used. One is the company data storage, and this is actually, these three widgets are being stored in the company app itself. So it's the same in principle, but slightly different in practice. Whereas here in the contacts page, we're actually referencing a foreign app, which is the contacts app, and so we are actually storing the data through this view. That's been explained in previous videos, so I hope I haven't confused anyone with that. So if I have, just forget it, and this next section should make sense anyway. So if you remember, I added a new company and I clicked on Save. So the event here on click, and here is our handler. So the first thing we're doing is we're saying if gcomp new, that means if I clicked on the new button rather than updating, then I'm using app instance create. Because in this particular case it is storing data for the actual app itself, so the company, I don't need to specify here anything in the first parameter. If I was, as in the case of the contacts, I'd specify the container name. And this is the second parameter. This is the callback function when the data has been received by the server, and in this case it's undefined because we're not interested in checking for that. We are interested in checking when the data has actually been successfully passed and stored in the full data table. So this is what's called the core database callback, that's the CDB, and this is the results database callback, that's the RDB callback. So if you want to be absolutely sure that everything's been fully processed, don't use the first one, do use the second one. And CB save, that's up at the top here. This is not really doing anything, it's just being called once the data has been successfully saved, or if there was an error. And then here, if there's no error, we're just refreshing the data in the grid. Now if I go back here, and if I press save when I'd clicked in the grid rather than having pressed new, then let me just find my way back to the function. Then it's not comp new, it's here, it's instance update. So instance create creates a new record, if you like, in the data storage. Instance update updates the current one. Again, we don't specify the first parameter, it's exactly the same as for here. Best way to deconfuse yourself, if I've confused you, is to go to the user guide and read up in details about creating, updating, deleting, and read up on the way that these callback functions work. If I now go back and go to the contacts page here, if you remember, I would have selected a company on the first page, then clicked on the Manage Contacts button to bring me through to the second page. Now at this point I would click on one of the contacts, the fields will appear here, and then the same thing, I can press save, or if it's new I press new. In that particular case the principle is the same. The only thing that's different is here we specify the name of the data container.